and they're telling me that I'm engaging in reputation destruction by telling other people to do their own research.
You're scrolling through my tweets and whatnot, and you're weaponizing the years of propaganda, the decades of propaganda to call LGBTQ people groomers and portray them as like sex offenders, using the taught bigotry that has infected your viewers in order to shape the narrative by focusing on optics instead of substance. This is what makes things dangerous. Okay, so I didn't actually want to talk about the drama. If you remember a while ago, I actually had the altercation with Asmongold where a clip was being taken out of context in order to push a narrative. And I called that out, right? I made like a video being like how sloptubers fuel transphobia, sloptubers manipulate their viewers. There was also like the takedown clip in there and whatnot. But there was like this situation, and it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like 7 seconds out of a 43-second clip from a 17-minute video from a 4 to 5 hour stream. What did I say after that? And it's always like so interesting that these people are like obsessed with age of consent, with like consent in general, but then they have like takes of how intersex people need to be forced into gender reassignment surgeries, etc., because they are broken and need to be fixed. Then consent doesn't matter. It's just when it comes to like a child getting treated for gender dysphoria, not feeling comfortable in their own skin, and wanting to get help. Then consent is like a big issue. Oh, kids can't consent. That's why, you know, HRT and puberty blockers, etc. is like a bad thing. But when it comes to like intersex children, gender reassignment surgery, then it's like, oh, the doctors, they know better. So that was like the situation that was 6 months ago. Asmongold blames me for transphobia, which was 1 month ago. So this was Asmongold compares the belief that people can be transgender to believing in flat earth theory, young earth creationism, and lizard people, insisting that such people are delusional and so batshit crazy stupid that it disqualifies them from having an opinion on anything else. I'm yapping about this. I quote tweeted this with, be Asmongold, be uneducated, wake up to a rotting carcass, spread harmful rhetoric about marginalized group in front of hundreds of thousands of people, cause irreversible harm because people take this BS at face value, get paid millions. This is why trans people lose hope. He responded with, if you want to play a fun drinking game, search from Yara VT trans kids and take a drink every time you get a new tweet. You'll have alcohol poisoning in 30 seconds. Your fixation on trans kids has caused more damage to the transgender movement than I have or ever will. Trans kids exist. I was born. We are not being groomed into this. We are not quote-unquote confused. Insisting that a trans girl is a boy or vice versa is abused to imply that stating this fact is causing damage to the transgender movement when you don't want us to exist is insane. And we got like the tweet from like Tectone being like, definitely gonna be part of the 41% of this, which is crazy. Obviously, you know, according to that statistic, I would be part of the 41% already, because this is like suicide attempts or suicidal thoughts before transitioning, and I had those growing up as a kid. 12-year-old me wanting to take her own life. That's just how it goes. It was October 21st. Not even a month ago. Anyways, I'm currently trending right now because we had like a situation. I saw this tweet on the timeline where Asmongold was like, shouldn't have been talking shit and making things up about people. People like you have no problem participating in reputation destruction, manipulation, and large-scale gaslighting so long as it serves your ideological goals. That's why they cheer and you deserve it. This is just like a reply to someone being like, in the future we'll all take turns being sued by psychotic asshole millionaires and then criticized by brain damaged Nazi sympathizing incel road truckers when we eventually break down as 13-year-old edgelords, MAGA dogs and bots cheer them on, and rinse and repeat. This was something about like Frogan. Frogan gets emotional talking about how difficult streaming has been for her in recent months. Asmongold responded to this with, only in America can an overweight woman with brand new nails cry about not having money and then complain about her job sucks because she has to watch YouTube videos. Next she's going to tell us she got PTSD from reading mean comments. Should have joined the military instead. Oh yeah, words don't have meaning unless you call someone a fascist, then it's like the worst thing you could ever do. This is like the same rhetoric as like, you could buy a house if you would not get your avocado toast every now and then. So to the shouldn't have been talking shit and making things up about people and so on, I quote tweeted this. Right? It was like, you want to talk about reputation destruction? You're a piece of shit who spreads transphobia, normalizes far-right propaganda, and you deserve to not just be called out, but face real-world consequences for the hate you're spreading. You're not some hero of free speech, you suck. Right? Because he always portrayed himself as like, he's getting like a sense of justice for like doing these things. He loves, you know, putting people in their place. If I wouldn't have opened my mouth against like Kirche and whatnot, then this would have never happened, and so on, right? This is from a news article quoting Asmongold being like, stop trying to groom kids. Asmongold responds to transgender video and Nyara's allegations of me calling him transphobic, you know? Because Asmongold is a comedy genius. He just screenshotted his tweet from a month ago and posted it again and attempted to ratio me. Oh my god, it's getting so close. It's getting so close. So I was like, why does a trans woman care about trans kids? That doesn't make the mentally ill people I regularly call grooming victims look good. Then I saw that Asmongold was talking about me on stream. He was talking about the situation. So what the fuck?
Once the nazification of the US is over, they'll have to add laws and regulations to free speech in order to not protect hate speech. Being allowed to maliciously spread misinformation without consequences and thus normalizing fascist propaganda is bad for a country, actually. I've got really bad news for you. Is that... What do you think happens whenever people like me, or people that are more extreme than me, inevitably get control of the government? What do you think happens to all the people that were tweeting nonstop about trans kids? What happens to them?
You poor transgender individual. Did you know what people like me did to people like you? Do you know what the Nazis did to people like you? Like, what the fuck is that? Bro didn't even deny the claim of, like, a nazification of the US. We see what's happening. Trans people, marginalized groups, we see what is happening. We see what you people are doing to people like us. We see that happening. Hello, that's why I'm speaking out. That's why, you know, I have to do what I do. What is this? That is so wild. What the fuck do you mean? Anyway, that was like a crazy clip. It's like 4 minutes, 33 seconds at 1.5 speed. So about like 6 minutes. I'm going to get back to this in just a second because I actually didn't want to talk about this. We've been having like a lot of drama. It's always like the same thing. The people who need to be reached are not actually being reached. It is just something like, I just have to take the punches, right? You know, it's just going to be like some Twitter drama. People are going to like be in the DMs or like in the replies, and they're going to like spread the fake screenshots and call me a groomer and a pedo and whatnot. Like always like the same thing, right? We don't have to like regurgitate these things. So I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm not going to do this. Today I woke up, I saw this. This is so fucking bad. With an altered image of me. Like, what the fuck is this arm? Isn't the shit from a Kiwi Farms thread so bad and falsified that Kiwi Farms admits stepped in to shut it down? Yeah. Even Null commented on it. Obviously, you know, this is the Asmongold clip channel. This is a channel where Asmongold is basically being used in order to be like a mouthpiece for like anti-LGBTQ type of propaganda and so on, right? Just to farm like a narrative. I was like, bro, using AI to alter my selfie for the thumbnail is so fucking wild too. And dudes were like, they use AI, bro. This is literally what you look like. And I'm like, yes, this is me. Do you see like in the picture that there's like no right side? And there's no left side, and there's no upper side, and they like straight up replaced the arm. Like, what the fuck? And, you know, obviously, this is like unfavorably like edited as well, shit like that. I'm like an ugly troll. I'm awful. I'm disgusting. I'm gross. I'm a 40-year-old man pretending to be a 14-year-old anime girl on the internet type of shit, right? Obviously. What are the elbows? Yeah, it's just so fucking. Also, with this quote, disgusting, out of context. It's just gross. So I figured, why not check this out, right? Why not Asmongold clips. Why not look at it? How bad can it be?
You want to talk about reputation destruction? You're a piece of shit who spreads transphobia, normalizes far-right propaganda, and you deserve to not just be called out, but face real-world consequences for the hate you're spreading. I wonder what this means. I wonder...
In a just world, jail, losing your platform would be a start. Not being allowed to go on the internet and, you know, weaponize people, push like a narrative, normalize these things, right? Force them to shower. Exactly. Redistributing your wealth as a sense of like paying reparations for like all the harm that you have caused marginalized groups and so on. That's something that I would not be opposed to.
How you would feel if I said to my audience that you should face real world consequences. Because
the thing is, like, if they're going to say that like I should go to jail because I'm a pedo and I'm a groomer and whatnot, it's lies. It's based on propaganda. It's hate speech. When I'm saying that, I'm literally describing what the fuck you're doing.
That would be an incitement to violence, and you know it is.
Just for context, this is the same person we dealt in the past, now going full mask off.
If minors can't consent to
I'm going full mask off, by the way.
HRT, then they can't consent to puberty.
If they can't consent to it's crazy to me, like how people still don't understand the take. Puberty induced through HRT is mechanically the same as puberty induced through your natural produced hormones. So if you're saying that, oh, because 16-year-olds do not know their gender identity, they don't know if they're a boy or a girl, they don't know the right path for them. You give them puberty blockers in order to give them time and so on. But a lot of these people are like, no, you have to go through your quote-unquote natural puberty before you go on HRT, right? You have to wait until you're 18. This is what I'm calling out. This is like the hypocrisy that I'm trying to point out, but obviously this is just lost on the people who have no fucking idea what is happening. To HRT.
Minors can't consent to HRT, then they can't consent to puberty.
If they can't consent to HRT, how do you justify forcing them through puberty? For some reason, HRT is something irreversible, like life ruination or whatnot, and puberty is like this wholly natural thing.
Just to be absolutely clear, we are not talking about psychological counseling. We are not talking about puberty blockers. We are talking about hormone replacement therapy to children, the effects of which are permanent and irreversible.
You know what else is irreversible and permanent? Puberty! My body is permanently damaged by my puberty and I feel bitter about it. Yeah, I get it. You know, that's why puberty blockers are, you know, useful. So you are not causing those irreversible changes. Also, if you go on HRT, you still have like a guided process and whatnot, right?
I said, if you want to play a fun drinking game, search from Nyara trans kids and take a drink every time you get a new tweet. You'll have alcohol poisoning in 30 seconds. And so I will search this.
Let's speed it up or else it's half the clip.
We've got ourselves...
Victor really went all in on this anti-trans grift the moment he got praised on Twitter for implying I'm a pedophile and him denying the existence of trans kids, huh?
It's a bit of a situation here.
You think trans kids are quote-unquote grooming victims because you refuse to engage with trans issues in a meaningful way. You support conversion therapy, which is child abuse, and you use your faith as a shield when you get criticized for it. Leave trans people alone.
Bit of a problem.
Both of these people labeled me as a pedophile and groomer in front of tens of thousands of people because I acknowledge the existence of trans kids.
An issue. A certain...
Haven't tweeted about children today, so protect trans youth. Trans kids exist and they deserve to live happily and authentically.
Individual. They're
Whose fault is it again when trans kids end their lives? So do all VTubers do VTubing to lure kids in, or only the trans VTubers?
Obsessed with kids.
So you want to kill trans kids? Question mark. Wanting education and healthcare for trans kids doesn't make me look bad. You, on the other hand, wanting them to be tortured makes you look like a psycho. Yara is a pedo and a groomer, looks inside trans woman who wants trans kids to have healthcare and education. I wish accusing me of predatory behavior would have consequences for them, but instead big streamers can just lie about me and send their wild audience after me. Ironic, isn't it? LGBT Alliance and other hate groups want the NHS to tell young trans kids that they'll never be able to access the spaces that align with their gender identity. This is just cruel and shows that their entire existence is not uplifting the LGBT community, but to bully trans people.
% obsessed with this. Oh wait.
Trans kids exist. I was one. I was not groomed into this. I knew who I was and I knew why I was different, but I never spoke to anyone about it. I didn't have trans education or representation. I was all alone with this, and that made me anxious and depressed from a young age.
Wait, guys, you thought it was over? No, no.
Also, August said trans kids can't consent to gender-affirming care, but it's fine to force an intersex child to go through surgeries that make ambiguous genitalia a binary thing. If these people were at least consistent. Rolling eyes emoji. Why do you want trans kids to go through irreversible changes that cause depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts? It wasn't a joke, just looks bad if you don't understand the context around it. It was controversial on purpose, but I underestimated the amount of media illiteracy from the right. The video was about why trans people care about trans kids and why we want to provide education. In this video, I talk about my journey as a trans person and the steps I needed to take in order to medically and socially transition in Germany. Rant about how I had to prove that I am a woman to a judge, multiple psychologists, and doctors. I'm also explaining why trans adults can't just give up on trans kids. We don't want to turn cis kids trans. We just want to give trans kids the care and representation that we desperately needed when we were younger. We're not indoctrinating anyone, we are literally just sharing our experiences. People like J.K. Rowling love claiming that this is all predatory and dangerous, but it couldn't be further from the truth. Trans kids deserve to be trans, and just because some ignorant people deny our existence doesn't make our struggles any less real. Explain why you want to force trans kids to go through the wrong puberty. Isn't it crazy that a trans rights advocate is talking about, you know, trans kids because she was one? Isn't it insane? Forcing trans kids to wait with HRT is worse than having a kid detransition. There's more harm done by not allowing a kid who is questioning their gender identity to not explore themselves and get treatment recommended by experts. With a video about what the path for like trans healthcare actually looks like, especially for those underage.
Would you say she has a mental illness? Absolutely. It's not even a question. Like, of course you're mentally ill. You're out of
on trans people's heads for calling the police on them for entering a bathroom that doesn't align with their assigned sex at birth. Books are being banned that feature LGBTQ plus topics. Hate crimes have been skyrocketing, and men have been beating up kids on suspicion they are trans. Isn't it wild how someone who grew up as a trans kid, who knows about the education and whatnot, is actually caring about the trans youth? That's kind of insane, right? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You know, it's mental illness. That's what it has to be, yeah? Nyara is making the trans community look bad because of her obsession with wanting trans kids to live. Look at this tweet. Look at this tweet! By the way, if you want to fund my plushie, !plush or !plushie. Anyway, why would a trans person like say this? Like, goddamn, like you're making the trans people look bad by constantly talking about trans stuff, right? Like I got a tweet like this. As much as I like supporting and normalizing trans people, I feel like talking about it constantly is actually what makes some people hate trans folk. Mind you, that's just my opinion, but Nyara posts so much about that. These are her only posts I see, and I might consider muting her. Did you want better? I just blocked you. Why does a trans person say these things to me and think that's like a normal take? Like, that's just fucking pathetic. Actually, if trans people would just stay in the closet, nobody would be transphobic. Remember the times when nobody actually knew about trans people? That was when you had the most rights, actually.
And they're telling me that I'm engaging in reputation destruction by telling other people to do their own research. And
you're not telling other people to do research. You're scrolling through my tweets and whatnot, and you're weaponizing the years of propaganda, the decades of propaganda to call LGBTQ people groomers and portray them as like sex offenders and whatnot. You're using the quote-unquote common sense. You're using the taught bigotry that has infected your viewers' minds in order to shape the narrative by focusing on optics instead of substance. This is what makes things dangerous. That is what makes it hate speech. This is what I don't want. This is bad. This is awful. But anything for views and money, right? If I didn't want to get farmed, I shouldn't have like opened my mouth, right? You get what you deserve, right? That's how it is.
now you can see why these people are so extreme. It's because I think on...
You know what's crazy is that like this clip, this segment is actually from...
What do you think happens whenever people like me, or people that are more extreme than me, inevitably get control of the government? What do you think happens to all the people that were tweeting nonstop about trans kids? What happens to them? And now you can see why these people are so extreme. It's because I think on some very, very base level, they know their days are numbered.
In this video here, you replace the background to not show this tweet. Because then you could have told, like, immediately that this is out of context. That there's, like, something that was, like, skipped between scrolling through all of my tweets and this sentence.
Some very, very base level, they know their days are numbered. Unfortunately, I don't think that we can get this person's account banned for this. But I can see you're on the spectrum. You're gonna go over the line, it's gonna happen, and you're gonna do something or say something.
And it's always, like, so interesting that these people are, like, obsessed with age of consent.
Oh god. Leave the kids alone.
Isn't it crazy that this is like out of context again? Like this is just like cut off and so on. And there was also like some mix and matching going on again because like when it comes to like getting my account banned, there was like actually him whining that I said that he should face real world consequences for what he's doing. So this is like the full segment.
Anyway, Naira went and they said, this is a very, very common thing. You want to talk about reputation destruction. You're a piece of shit who spreads transphobia, normalizes far-right propaganda, and you deserve to not just be called out, but face real-world consequences for the hate you're spreading. I wonder what this means. I do. I wonder what this means. I wonder how you would feel if I said to my audience that you should face real-world consequences. I wonder how you'd feel about that. No, I'd never do that, because that would be an incitement to violence. And you know it is. Unfortunately, I don't think that we can get this person's account banned for this. But if I can see you're on the spectrum. You're going to go over the line, and we're going to get you. We're going to get you. It's going to happen, and you're going to do something or say something, and that's what's going to happen. Please do it. There's no reason to do it. Would you report these people? I don't think this is enough to get a person suspended. I think it should be, by the way, but you know, I don't really. It's abstract enough to where like it's not a direct threat. You're not some hero of free speech. You suck. Whoever said I'm a hero of free speech? Nobody ever.
You did, you know, something along the line. I'm probably paraphrasing, but you portrayed yourself as like some hero, you know, someone who's like doing justice to the world in order to like keep the liberals down and whatnot. Like, obviously, when I say real world consequences, I mean like for the things that you actually do, and you go to jail and you lose your platform or whatnot. So you can't do more harm. The thing is like when it comes to all of like the propaganda and so on. You sow the seed, you boost things like, oh, this rapist came out as a trans woman and wants to go into the women's prison in order to like rape the women there. Oh, there's like a pride parade and there are like some people walking around, some gay people who are like basically nude. These are like the seeds that you sow and then you like nourish it and you push it more. And then at some point you reach the point where it's like, actually trans kids don't exist. They come from mentally ill parents. Actually, trans people are so delusional and deranged. They make flat earthers look good. That's like how it goes. That is like how it evolves. And now you're at the point where a trans woman talking about being trans, growing up as a trans kid and wanting trans kids to have access to the resources that she wishes she had access to, and explains why that is like so important, why representation is so important, why, you know, teaching cis kids that trans kids even exist so that we are not being portrayed as like abnormal and demons and whatnot, right? That's like harder to exploit the ignorance of people. And me saying these things is apparently making the trans community look bad because I'm coming after the children when they are indoctrinating the children. They are the ones working on the new like Hitler Youth 2.0. They are the ones using like the seeds that they are sowing, the ignorance, the fear mongering, the out of context, the malinformation in order to push a certain narrative and harm queer kids. Obviously, not just queer kids, anybody who's like gender non-conforming and so on is getting hurt. Anyone who is not fitting into like the quote-unquote cishet normative is getting hurt. That's just like how it goes. Why is he so obsessed with you? Because at the start of the year, I called out Kirche for her transphobia and disgusting rhetoric of saying that there's like a hostile demographic takeover because in London they built like a mosque in like a Muslim neighborhood with like community funded money. And I called this out and he has not forgiven me since. Even normative cis people suffer, yeah, because they can't explore themselves. They can't, you know, break free from like the prison that they are trapped in because otherwise they are also going to face the consequences, right? Like if a man opens up and talks about feelings, then, you know, he is not fulfilling like the standard for men, the patriarchal standard for men. So he is getting bullied as well. He's going to get called like slurs and whatnot. Let's got deep lore with them. Yeah, we go way back. This was my year. This was 2025. This is how it goes. That's, you know, that's what we do. Just stop trying to groom kids. The article was from May 27th. If I make Asmon upset again, he is going to bring this up again and going to use the Onyara as a groomer type of nonsense. Again, it's just incredibly gross and disingenuous, and it sucks that he doesn't care, you know, anything for money, anything for views, right? I doubt he believes most of the things that he's saying, but, you know, he definitely has like some personal grudge against me. Grooming is when you do not want kids to die. Yeah, calling out people who are celebrating the suicide of a trans kid is actually bad. It's making the trans community look bad to call people out for, you know, calling trans people mentally ill and deranged and so on. Actually,